Hello. Good morning, guten Tag from Kansas City. We're gonna play some more Mario Kart. We're gonna play some more Mario Kart today, baby. Hey, hey. Welcome. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Leprechaun Owl Show. We're going to do the same thing we've been doing. That 200 cc. You know who it is. It's that shy guy. He's bashful. He's shy. He's not the most outgoing. But he will win some races. He will win some races. So you watch out. I don't give a shit about the bitty buggy. Don't show me the bitty buggy. I don't care. All I care about is the Streeto, because it's the best. It's got superior handling and acceleration. We don't need speed. It's 200cc. We're already going too damn fast. We're already running into walls and shit. Alright. We have made excellent progress this week. Got the whole top row and the first two cups on the bottom. If you don't know what we're doing all of these Grand Prix. And we're getting 3 stars. Perfection, baby. We only have 4 left. It's so sad. I'm going to have to find a new game to play. This is so sad. But it's not. It's going to be great. It's going to be a good feeling to perfect this whole game. And then we can just move on. We can just play a different game. And I'm taking suggestions. So if you're watching this, what do you think I should play next? What is your suggestion? Starting with the Leaf Cup, because I have the Leaf tires with the Streetle car and the Sunflower glider. The Sunflower glider, because we're so close to the Sunflower state of Kansas. We're just over the border here in Missouri. So it's going to be a chill morning stream for you. Hopefully I won't talk about anything controversial anymore, but knowing me, I probably will. I am controversial. Get it? Leprechaun Owl? My name's Alex. So, here we go. Oh. Classic course. I'm glad we did the new DLC courses first. I've already completed all those with 3 stars, and now we're working our way through the OG Grand Prix Cups. And these are just classic. I've played these ones more all through college. We played this game. We played this game so much in college. So I'm familiar. I'm familiar. Jump through the flames, through the fire and flames. Remember that song? Guitar Hero, anybody? Anybody? We're feeling good today. We've been kind of been stressed this week. I've been getting really terrible sleep the past couple weeks because I stopped smoking weed. Not forever, just I needed a break. You know, you gotta do that dopamine reset every once in a while. I was just getting carried away. I was using it as a crutch more than a tool. I like having it as a tool, but if you use it as a crutch and you rely on it for too long, then the utility of the tool isn't as potent. Yes! Oh, I can't believe I got that. Holy scheisse. Holy shnikes. Holy shit. Wow. So I just knew it was time. I took like 6 or 7 months off of weed last year, 2023. and that was really good for me. And then the rest of 2023, I was pretty good about using it as a tool, right? I was really just smoking with friends as like a social thing, or I was usually using it literally as a tool for creativity, like when I wanted to sit down and paint, or work on a mural design. I would just take like a rip, maybe two, out of my bowl, and that was a really good strategy. I wasn't doing it every day. It was maybe like a couple times a week, which might seem like also still often, but like people smoke way more than that. Yeah, I certainly have at different times in my life, and I have been lately. And I think the turning point of me getting back into being more of a chronic user, more of a daily smoker, was when we bought this duplex, the duplex that I'm sitting in right now that we currently live in. Me and my fiance, okay, that was my shell that I hit myself with. And then I got squirted on, and then I got hit with a blue shell. Fuck me, big boy. Fuck me. So when we bought this duplex back in December, we closed at the end of December, right at the turn of the year. It needed a lot of work before we moved in. We basically bought the whole duplex so that we could live in one side and rent out the other. The old house hacking strategy for our first real estate investment property. Just kind of double down. You already got to pay rent or a mortgage to live somewhere. So we figured we'd just pay a little bit more and kind of stretch ourselves financially. Oh, fuck. Oh, I wish that would have hit him. Fuck, we got to start over. Yeah, so house hacking, that's the strategy. Stretch ourselves a little bit financially each month. Obviously that's a higher mortgage, but it's not exactly double the mortgage, right? Like this duplex probably only cost us like, I don't know, maybe 80 grand more. So like maybe like 30% more than a single family home of the same quality and location would have cost us. So the increase of the mortgage is probably similar, maybe 30% more than what we would be paying for a single family. But the difference is we are able to charge for the other side in rent far more than 30% more. So like we're actually paying less for this place for the rest of the mortgage. It's not truly a house hack in the sense that the rental income is paying for our whole mortgage. It's not even close. But it's over half. We are paying over half. The rental income is paying for over half of the mortgage, which is a win. Because that means eventually, if and when we move out and get another place, because we might do this a couple more times and just like leapfrog from property to property, like maybe 2 or 3 times. And by the end of that, we should be cash flowing. But as soon as we move out of this place and we're paying less than we pay here, then we will be ideally cash flowing. Because ideally we'll be able to get the same rent that we're getting for the other side that we will be able to get for the side we're living in. And so that will be more than the mortgage. So that'll be cash flow. That's the idea, at least. And honestly, in this market, that's pretty good. Like our numbers are pretty good considering the market that we're in and the location and the value. And plus we're comfortable here. We did a lot of renovations, which is why I brought this up. That made this probably the most comfortable place that I've lived in, including like when I lived with my parents, who have a pretty nice house, but they're just not really like minimalists like I am. It was like a clean house. It wasn't like bad, but they just have a lot of stuff, and I don't like a lot of stuff. I'm talking about my parents. So like they had like maybe a nicer house, but it wasn't even nicer, I don't think. Nicer is in as in bigger and like fancier and like prettier, but it was like oh, I'm supposed to quit. It's like an old Victorian style house, so it's like over 100 years old. It's like a 120-year-old house that they lived in. So it's like drafty. In the summers, it's super hot. In the winters, it's a little cold. So when I say comfortable, I'm considering these factors as well. Because those are more important to me than having space to put stuff. Because I don't like stuff. I'm a minimalist. So it doesn't have to be that big of a place for me to be comfortable, as long as I have enough space for my art studio and this office setup that I have here, that I play games and edit videos and do all my business. So anyway, I'm only bringing up this real estate thing because first of all, I'm interested in real estate, so I like talking about it, but also the renovation process. That's what was the turning point for my weed habit. I had a pretty sustainable, pretty healthy relationship with weed all last year. Even when I like picked it back up again after the sobriety break, and when I started renovating this house, I was doing it all by myself. So I was working every single day, 7 days a week, on the renovations of this property. You know, working 10-hour days at least, sometimes 12, and that was for like a solid 3 months. And like at the beginning of that, I wasn't really using weed as like a tool, because the thing about weed is, you know, when you're smoking on a regular basis, you kind of have a tolerance for it, so you're not like bugging out. But it will be a nice tool if you are, say, working manual labor all day and it's monotonous work. You're just like tearing up floors or cleaning or scraping stuff, doing drywall work, painting, especially stuff that's just like a lot of square footage and takes a lot of focused manual labor, but it's repetitive, so you don't have to like problem solve necessarily. Although in renovation work, there's always problem solving and you can't predict it. So you know, this didn't really work 100% of the time, because I would like smoke weed to get through monotonous projects, and then something would come up that was unexpected, and I would have to then problem solve and make decisions, and I wasn't necessarily in the best state of mind. So this is definitely like an excuse, but I will say that weed does help for remedies for pain, like pain relief, because manual labor is very intense and hard on your body. Like bending over a lot, I had a lot of back pain. So I was using it definitely as a tool to fight through that pain, to have some longevity in my day. You know, if you're working for 8 hours or more in anything, you get some fatigue physically, mentally, psychologically, emotionally, because this whole project was very stressful emotionally. So I was using it as a way to cope with that stress. And it just, you know, it got to being from like a couple times a week as like a treat to then being like every other day at the end of the day. And then like I started smoking throughout the day, and then it just became like an everyday, all day thing throughout this renovation process. And that just kind of like really quickly turned into a habit. And although it does have all those benefits, like leaning on any substance, any exterior substance, I don't know what the word I'm trying to say is. Any substance that you're taking in from the outside, I mean, it's a drug, you know what I mean? Like, there's different, there's like a spectrum of drugs, and like weed is definitely on the bottom side of that scale as far as like harm caused, or like harm to benefit ratio. That's why so many people do it habitually like that, chronically, because it is really easy to like justify doing it, and the consequences aren't so immediate, and like it's compared to like alcohol, right? Like if you drink alcohol, the impairment that you get from it is very apparent. It's very obvious, the amount of like anxiety and um, the depressive nature of it, and like the physical impairments. Like you can't really even think straight once you get to a certain point of intoxication on alcohol. And I'm always going to say that weed is um, less risky than alcohol, but at the same time, because it's so seemingly harmless, I'm not going to say it's harmless because there's definitely a downside to weed. I'm literally explaining it right now. Alcohol is way worse. That doesn't mean that if you smoke and you don't drink that you're fine. Again, this is just my own perspective, my own experience. Do you? Everybody's on their own path. I'm not trying to shame anybody ever on this channel or make people feel guilty or that they should be doing one thing or the other. You know, we all have our reasons for doing things. We all have our coping mechanisms. Suffering is inevitable in life, and we all do what we can to get through it. I will say, in general, sobriety is the way to go. That's not to say that it's easy. What was I getting at? I was getting at just like, it became a habit. I was doing it every day, probably abusing it, you know. And once you get in that loop, it's really hard to get out. Like you have to have a lot of motivation and willpower to get out of that. And there are like mechanisms that you can use to overcome that. I don't want to say addiction because addiction's a weird word. And weed is certainly not something that really qualifies for being something that you can develop like a chemical dependency on. I mean, I think the science isn't out yet. We haven't done enough research because it could be. Maybe if you know more about like neuroscience and whatever, I think an interesting piece of informative content out there that kind of like shifted my perspective on weed is the Huberman Lab podcast. Andrew Huberman, he put out a great podcast on the benefits and the negative aspects of cannabis use, and how it's like different for everybody. So for me, I'm an artist. I'm a creative entrepreneur, and I'm somebody that is pretty psychologically stable. I mean, I have my demons, and I definitely have some psychological baggage, and like, you know, I could be considered to be anxious, depressed, bipolar. I'm not diagnosed, but I have a lot of people that have been diagnosed and have bipolar people in their lives, and they've said that I have very similar symptoms. So I'm not really an awesome candidate for smoking weed necessarily, but I've handled it pretty well over the years, and I've found probably more benefits than the negative repercussions. So that being said, it was getting carried away. I think regardless, unless you have some sort of like chronic disorder that is just like the benefits of cannabis far outweigh the negatives, and it's like not even negotiable for you, because it is a massive tool. It's a really, I mean, it's medicine at the end of the day, but unless you have some sort of like serious issue, you shouldn't be probably taking medications for anything every day. That's my horrible medical advice that you should not follow. Do your own research, get the advice, the professional medical advice that you need. This is one of my favorite courses. Mostly because of the first turn, you can just drift all the way around, bam, then go up this bridge. I think that's a fun turn. And I like Yoshi. So anyway, I was noticing that I was getting carried away through the renovation process, but it was like hard to get out. Like I just had so many excuses. Like I went straight from the renovation project into a series, excuse me, a series of murals, because that's what I do. That's my job. That's my real job. The renovation was just like, you know, I paint murals throughout the year, but the winter is definitely the slow season for me because I can't really do exterior gigs. Can't really do exterior murals, and that's like where most of the big money comes from, because they're just bigger walls. People are willing to pay for exterior murals because they kind of double as like advertisement, like business owners, property owners, stuff like that. That's my clientele. And that's kind of why we planned the property purchase for the beginning of winter. You know, we pretty much bought it. We closed on the house like a couple days after the winter solstice. So the beginning of winter. And so then I was going to be able to do the renovation during my slow season, the winter, when I wasn't painting murals anyway. But it took me that entire season to finish the renovation. It took me basically 3-4 months to finish both sides, which is actually pretty impressive for just doing it by myself with like occasional weekend help from my fiance and my family. Most of the labor, probably 90% of the labor, was just me by myself. I think we did it, folks. We got the leaf cup. So anyway, I segued from the renovation process right into my mural business, and I was just doing these murals, and I don't need weed to paint murals, but again, it's manual labor. It's a lot of physical toll on your body. It can be stressful, and then it's also a creative process. And painting is really fun when you're smoking weed. It just is. It just snaps you into that flow state. Like if you're painting for like 3 hours, you're up and down on this wall, spray painting, using your body, and you're getting tired, you're getting a little bit monotonous and bored. Smoke a little weed, it just shifts your mindset and you get back into that creative flow state, and it's a really good tool for that. But like I said, it can be a tool or it can be a crutch. That line is very blurry at times, and it was getting carried away. I was using it in a way that I felt like I needed it, and I was relying on it very heavily. And so 6 months went by of basically daily use, and I figured out that it was time to stop, and now is that time. So I think my last rip of the bong, I basically was like, I don't have the willpower to just stop cold turkey in the same like environment, whatever. So I basically told myself, my very last excuse that was to be exhausted was, I have this weed, so I'm not going to be able to stop knowing that I have this substance that I was relying on just in my basement, ready to be ripped. So I told myself, I'm just going to smoke what I got. And then once that's over, I'm not buying any more. I'm not going to resupply. I'm just going to smoke through it, and then that'll be done. That'll be when I stop. And then I won't have, because that's just like using friction to your advantage, right? The friction being I had to go spend money, and it's not cheap, the good stuff's not cheap. I had to go spend money and make a trip to the store to go get the stuff. Whereas like the friction of smoking what I already have, that's not enough friction to get me to stop. I would rely heavily on the willpower, right? To just like tell myself over and over, don't do it, don't do it. That was too much willpower. But it's less willpower if I don't have it, because then I have to go somewhere else outside of my house. If I ever have the urge to do it, that's just like a bigger obstacle. There's a lot of friction there, right? And I could use that to my advantage when trying to stop. So that being said, I smoked through all the stuff I had. I think I ran out probably, 2.5 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, a little over 2 weeks ago. So here I am, a little over 2 weeks into sobriety. And it's caused me to have insufficient sleep. I had a stream last week that was like an insomnia stream that I started streaming at like 2 a.m. playing Yoshi's Island. It's been rough. It's been better the past couple nights, but it's taken me up until this point to get any decent sleep. I was averaging probably like 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night, and they're pretty restless nights. It's not like deep sleep by any means. So it's been stressful. It's been, it's been taking a toll on my health, which just goes to show, even if you're not feeling negative symptoms, and you feel like you've got a pretty good grasp over your usage of this drug, albeit a pretty nice and beneficial drug in a lot of ways. It is a drug. It's changing your physiology, and it, is changing your normal baseline, your homeostasis, if you will. So, and that's undeniable. Like, no matter how good you think your relationship with it, and I'm not trying to be preachy, like I said, everybody's on their own journey. I'm not trying to say this is how it is for you. But it's certainly hard to argue just based on my sleep patterns alone. And I've also been kind of testy. Like, my anxiety probably comes more readily when I'm not smoking weed, or when I'm coming off of weed, rather. Like, I've just been a little bit more frustrated, easier to temper, easier to frustration when I'm coming off of weed. So that just goes to show you what you were using weed for as medication. And, for whatever that's worth, that could be seen as a positive thing of weed, because it's treating those things. But at the same time, I think your body is designed to handle stress and situations and anxiety without outside medication. Does that make sense? So using it is definitely being like a crutch. You know what I mean? You're overriding your body's natural processes for handling those stressors, right? So anyway, it's beneficial to take sobriety breaks like I'm doing now, because it can hopefully just like reset your dopamine, reset those natural processes and cycles in your body, so that you can manage this stuff on your own. And the goal is to not only do that, but also to kind of prove to myself over and over again, to do these sobriety breaks, that I can do it, that I'm not reliant upon these substances. I don't need drugs, right? I can handle life on my own, and I can take the suffering to the face if need be, because you're not always going to have these things. And it's just like, I'm not judging people that are using it as a crutch and a tool on a regular basis, but you're stronger if you don't. It gives you more flexibility in life if you don't have to do that. You know what I mean? Like, you can just be in a variety of situations if you're not reliant upon this substance. Because I definitely felt that. Like, if you're in a social situation, it's been a handful of hours since you've smoked, and you just get that craving. You're like, I could really go for that right now. And then you kind of get a little testy, and you get a little irritable. I don't like that. I don't like that I get that way. I think that's when it goes too far. So, a couple weeks sober here. I don't know how long I'm going to go. It's probably not going to be 6 months like I did last year. Because I do have a big boys trip, lake weekend, scheduled for the middle of September. So, like, probably a month from now. And, that's typically what we do. They drink. We all smoke. I've been sober from alcohol for over 2 years now, I think, which is, I should be proud of that. That's enough to be proud of, and I've been using that as an excuse for the weed too. Oh shit, last lap he crashes, 4th place, here we go. So you'd think being sober from alcohol is enough, and I could just smoke weed, because that's the one thing I have. That's what I've been telling myself. You gotta have vice. It's one thing you have. And there's some truth in that, but I don't know. Like, all the reasons I said before, still worth taking sobriety breaks. Gotta be realistic, you know. Oh, I would have hit her, but can I make it up in this last turn? Come on, come on, come on, come on. Let's go. Let's go. So anyway, we got that boys trip coming up, and it's kind of just tradition. We do it once a year, and it's just part of it. The weed's part of it. I don't drink. It's really hard to be around people that are drinking and eating a bunch of junk food that I also don't eat, because I eat pretty clean, and I don't fuck with holidays. I don't change my lifestyle for holidays much, but I am going to change it for that one holiday and do that little drug for social connection and just getting a little silly with the boys. So, I don't know. I think a month and a half is probably enough time to like reset all those cycles, like I said. And I'll be able to hopefully just do it for that weekend, not jump right back into the daily habit, kind of reset my relationship with marijuana, and maybe have a healthier relationship that go around. Maybe just use it for those, you know, sparse social interactions, right? Like the random weekends, just using it for like working on mural designs. Maybe if I'm doing like a long painting session, I'd like to not do it when I'm on site painting murals for clients in public, because that's just like hard. It's like a level of risk involved, especially like I painted some murals in Kansas these past few months, and like it's illegal there, so that's putting myself at risk, and it's just not worth it. Like, am I really trying to risk legal ramifications for that habit? Like, that's when I think it goes too far. I mean, I know I've done it a lot. Pretty much my whole weed smoking life has been illicit and not legal, but just because you haven't gotten in trouble yet doesn't mean you're not going to. And that's a bad argument. And I live in Missouri, and it's a legal state, so, you know, they don't really prosecute, they don't really come after people smoking weed in public even, as long as you're being, like, pretty discreet. You can, like, smoke on the street, and you're not going to get caught unless you're, like, blowing smoke in a cop's face, and you make it hard for them to not. So, anyway, that's my journey right now. If you're somebody that's been battling with sobriety, just know you've got solidarity in me, at least with alcohol. I'm not planning on drinking anytime soon. I made a promise to my sister, who's a recovering alcoholic, that as long as she doesn't drink, I won't. So she's got solidarity in me, and you do too. If you want to, I hate to say like full sobriety, because I probably will start smoking weed, like I said, again at some point. California sober, if you will. But if you're trying to get off booze, I support you. And you can just come and stream. I've got hours worth of content already on this channel. And you can watch all my old streams and listen to me talk about nonsense. If you're feeling lonely. And just reach out to me, because I think that I could be some good sobriety, solidarity, at least on the alcohol front. Like on Friday nights, I thought about doing like Friday night streams, and just locking myself into hanging out with people on a night that usually is like a party night, you know, give you something to do. If you're lonely and feeling the craving and the urge to go out and party. There's other options, folks. We can play video games and hang out and talk and socialize and connect online. So, that being said, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching this video and talking with me. Make sure you leave a comment and let me know how I'm doing. If anything's fucked up, the audio, the overlay, if you'd like to see some improvement. Or, you know, have a suggestion of something I should talk about next time. I usually do these streams between the hours of like 7 and 9 a.m. I don't have a set schedule, but it's going to be sometime in there. That's That's Central Standard Time, USA. I'm in Kansas City, Missouri. So, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.